People say the walls of college dorms hold secrets, but I never thought one would knock on my door. At midnight, of course. Nothing good or ordinary ever happens at midnight. Ethan's fist had barely brushed the wood when I opened it, and there he was, barefoot in a wrinkled t-shirt, clutching his guitar like a lifeline. His face was pale, but his eyes, God, his eyes were burning with something I didn't recognize right away. Fear, hope, maybe even love. I should back up. My name's Ryan, junior year English major at a small liberal arts college in Massachusetts. I thought I'd seen it all, the drunken hookups down the hall. The breakups screamed through thin walls. The kids reinventing themselves every semester. But Ethan, he was different. A freshman with a halo of curls that always fell into his face. A voice that cracked in the sweetest way when he sang at open mics, and the kind of shy smile that made people want to protect him. We weren't friends. Not really. Just nodding acquaintances in the cafeteria, polite smiles across the quad. Yet here he was, standing in my doorway at an ungodly hour, heart practically hanging from his sleeve. "Can I come in?" His voice was soft, but urgent. I hesitated, then stepped aside. He slipped past me, smelling faintly of rain and guitar wood. The silence stretched thin as he sat on the edge of my bed, clutching his instrument like it might shatter. "What's going on, Ethan?" I finally asked. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he plucked a trembling note, then another, until the melody filled the room. I recognized it, something he'd sung at open mic night, the one that left half the room in tears. Only now it sounded different. Raw, personal. When he looked up, his eyes glistened. "Ryan, I can't keep this to myself anymore." My stomach flipped. The words hung heavy in the air, louder than the song. He broke off, pressing his lips together, as if the truth was too dangerous to say out loud. And in that moment, I realized what this was. Not just a late-night visit. Not just music. It was confession. I should have told him to leave, that this wasn't my problem, that midnight secrets were dangerous in a place like this. But I didn't, because his hands were shaking, and his heart was breaking, and for reasons I didn't fully understand, mine was too. "I've been in love with someone," he whispered, eyes darting to the floor. "And I can't, God, I can't hide it anymore." The dorm clock ticked, each second dragging me deeper into a truth I wasn't sure I was ready to face. "Who?" I asked, though part of me already knew. His gaze lifted, slow and trembling, until it locked with mine. And that was it. The secret. The storm. The thing neither of us could take back. Ethan loved me. I should have laughed. Should have pushed him away. Should have reminded him that boys like us didn't get happy endings. Not in small towns. Not under the weight of family expectations and locker room whispers. But instead, I froze. Because deep down, I'd wanted this too. The rest of the night unraveled in a blur of half-spoken truths and almost touches. He told me how long he'd carried this. How every song was for me. How every look across the quad was a silent plea. I told him nothing. Couldn't. My chest felt like it was caving in, equal parts longing and terror. When he finally leaned in, face inches from mine, I stopped him. "Ethan, you don't know what you're asking for." His eyes filled with hurt, but his voice was steady. "I know exactly what I'm asking for. I'm asking for you." And God help me, I wanted to say yes. But instead, I stood, pacing the small dorm room like a caged animal. My father's voice echoed in my head, lectures about masculinity, about pride, about what kind of man I was supposed to be. "Ethan, it's not that simple," I whispered. His fingers brushed mine as he reached for me, soft but insistent. "It is. You're just scared." And he was right. I was terrified. Terrified of wanting him. Terrified of needing him. Terrified of the truth that, deep down, I had been waiting for that midnight knock all along. The air between us buzzed with everything unsaid. He sat there, hope flickering like a candle, waiting for me to either snuff it out or let it burn. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew one thing. Life was never going to be the same after this night. The week after that night was torture. Every time I saw Ethan across campus, guitar slung over his back, curls wild from the wind. My chest tightened. I remembered the way he had looked at me so raw, so open, and the way I had done nothing but back away. I told myself it was for his own good. That boys like us didn't survive the kind of truth he wanted to live out loud. I told myself I was protecting him. But the truth? I was protecting myself. Protecting the mask I had worn for years, the one that kept me safe but also suffocated me slowly. Ethan stopped showing up at the dining hall at the same time I did. Stopped waving across the quad. At open mic night he played, but his songs were sharp now, jagged with pain. I sat in the back, unseen, and every lyric felt like a knife meant for me. Then, one rainy evening, fate cornered me. I was heading back from the library, hoodie pulled up, when I saw him standing under the awning by the music building, drenched from head to toe. His guitar case was at his feet, but he wasn't rushing to get inside. He was just standing there, staring into the storm, like it matched the one inside him. Before I knew it, I was beside him. "You'll ruin your guitar," I said, my voice cracking. He looked at me, eyes tired, cheeks wet, whether from rain or tears. I couldn't tell. Maybe that's the point. The silence was unbearable. "Ethan," I started, but he cut me off. "No, you don't get to do this. Not now. Not after you shut me down." His voice was steady, but it trembled at the edges. "You can't just swoop in when you feel guilty." I swallowed hard. "I wasn't trying to hurt you. I was just scared." He let out a bitter laugh. "Scared? You think I'm not scared? Every single day I walk around this campus terrified someone's gonna see through me, call me names, make my life hell. But I'd still rather live that truth than hide. Because hiding feels worse." The rain hammered around us, drowning out everything else. For a long moment, all I could do was look at him, this boy who had every reason to crumble, but instead stood in the storm, demanding to be seen. And in that moment, something inside me snapped. The mask I had worn for years cracked open, and I couldn't hold it anymore. "You think I don't want you?" I said, voice breaking. "You think I don't lie awake at night wishing I had the courage to say yes? God. Ethan, I wanted to kiss you that night more than I've ever wanted anything. But I've spent my whole life being told that wanting this makes me weak, makes me wrong. And I didn't know how to fight that." The words hung heavy, soaked in rain and regret. Ethan's eyes softened, though hurt still lingered there. "Then fight it now. For me. For us." I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was the storm. Maybe it was the way his voice shook but didn't break. Maybe it was the years of silence pressing down on my lungs. But I closed the distance. I kissed him. It wasn't perfect, wet and desperate, full of rainwater and salt, but it was real. It was fire and release, terror and salvation all at once. His hands found my face, mine clutched at his shirt, and for the first time in my life I didn't care who saw. When we finally pulled back, both breathless, he laughed through his tears. "Took you long enough." I rested my forehead against his. "I'm sorry." "Then don't make me wait again," he whispered. The weeks that followed weren't easy. Whispers spread when people saw us together. Some friends drifted away, their smiles suddenly brittle. But there were also moments of unexpected grace, classmates who nodded in quiet support. A professor who stopped me after lecture just to say, "Be proud." And through it all, Ethan was there. Music pouring from him like sunlight, teaching me that love didn't have to be hidden to be safe. I learned to hold his hand in public, even when my palms sweated with nerves. I learned to silence the voice of my father in my head, the one that told me I'd failed as a man. I learned that love, real love, doesn't ask for perfection. It asks for presence. One night, months later, he knocked on my door again. But this time he wasn't trembling. He carried his guitar, sat on my bed and said, "This one's for us." The song was simple, soft, but every chord wrapped around my heart like a promise. A promise of mornings spent tangled in sheets, of late-night study sessions that turned into laughter, of storms weathered side by side. When he finished, I couldn't stop the tears. "What?" he teased, brushing them away with gentle fingers. I smiled. "I just realized. I'm not scared anymore." Ethan grinned, leaning in, his lips brushing mine. Good, because neither am I. And for the first time in my life, I believed it. Some stories don't end with fireworks or parades. Some end quietly, in the soft strum of a guitar, in the steady heartbeat of someone who refuses to let you hide. Ethan knocked on my door that night and shattered the walls I had built around myself. It wasn't just about love. It was about freedom, about finally choosing to live, even when it scared me. And if the walls of this dorm really do hold secrets, then let them hold this one. Two boys who found each other in the dark and decided, against all odds, to step into the light. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.